At 4 in the morning, the city of Thebes doesn't actually exist yet. There is only the silence of the Black Nile and the cold, unyielding pressure of limestone against the soles of your feet. While the pharaoh sleeps behind golden walls and the farmers dream of a better harvest, a very specific group of women is already wide awake. They aren't waking up to bake bread or scrub floors. They are waking up to become the living embodiment of perfection. This is the house of the Jollity, and for the women inside, the next 16 hours will be a grueling marathon of aesthetic precision, where one wrong move, one unpolished word, or one poorly applied line of coal could mean the difference between a life of luxury and a total descent into obscurity. You might think this was a life of leisure, but by the end of this journey, you'll realize that being a pleasure slave in ancient Egypt was perhaps the most high-stakes job in the ancient world. Let's step into the darkness of the harem and see what it really took to survive the dawn. The first sound you hear isn't a voice, but the rhythmic clinking of copper mirrors and the splashing of water. In the pitch black of the dormitory, the air smells of stale incense and the sharp, metallic tang of the river. There are no candles yet. Light is a luxury saved for the later hours. For now, you move by memory. The first ritual is the cleansing. This isn't just about hygiene, it's about erasing the human and creating the divine. Imagine standing in a stone basin while an older woman, a supervisor, whose face is a roadmap of decades in this house, pours a mixture of natron and water over your shoulders. It stings. It's meant to. Natron is a salt that strips the oils from your skin, leaving it unnaturally smooth and pale. In a world where the sun turns everyone into bronze, the elite prize the moonlight. This is the first contradiction of your life. To be desired, you must first be scrubbed until you feel nothing at all. But here's the open loop we have to address. One small blemish, a single pimple, or a stray cat scratch could get you demoted to the kitchens by sunrise. The pressure to be flawless isn't just vanity, it's survival. By 4:30, the oiling begins. This isn't a quick rub-down. It's a deep, systematic application of balanos oil or almond oil imported from the Levant. Every inch of skin must be saturated. Why? Because in the dry heat of Egypt, your skin is your currency. If it cracks, you lose value. As the oil sinks in, the conversation starts. It's quiet, whispered, and incredibly dangerous. In the house of the Jollity, information is just as important as beauty. Who did the pharaoh look at yesterday? Which vizier is losing favor? You aren't just learning to dance, you're learning to listen. Because later tonight, when you're pouring wine to a man who holds the power of life and death, knowing his secrets is the only shield you have. Now, here's where things get intense. Most people think of makeup as a bit of vanity, but for an Egyptian slave of this status, it was a literal mask of minerals. By 5 a.m., the vanity tables are crowded. You're applying galena and malachite. These aren't just colors. The green malachite under your eyes is a tribute to Hathor, the goddess of love, but it's also a functional tool to repel flies and protect against the blinding glare of the sun. But there's a catch. The lead in the galena is toxic. You are literally poisoning yourself to look like a goddess. It's a slow trade-off, your health for your status. You might wonder, was it worth it? To answer that, we have to look at the alternative. Outside these walls, life is a cycle of back-breaking labor and sand dust. Inside, you have the finest linen and the best food in the world. As the sun finally begins to peek over the horizon, the real work begins. This is the part of the routine no one talks about, the training. You don't just sit around looking pretty, you are an athlete of the arts. For the next 4 hours, you will practice the harp, the lute, and the sistrum until your fingers bleed. You will learn the complex choreographies of the ancient festival dances, which require the core strength of a modern gymnast. You have to move with a grace that seems effortless, even when your muscles are screaming. But wait, it's not just physical. You have to be an intellectual. You're taught the nuances of the Middle Egyptian language, poetry, and even the basics of theology. Why? Because a man of power doesn't just want a body, he wants to be entertained. He wants a woman who can quote the maxims of Ptah-hotep while she pours his beer. If you can't hold a conversation, you're just another servant. If you can, you're a queen in everything but name. think about the pressure. You're 19 years old, you've been awake for 5 hours, you've been scrubbed with salt and painted with lead, and now you have to memorize 300 lines of epic poetry. If you stumble, the mistress of the harem is watching. Her whip is rarely used on the favorites, but the threat is always there, hovering like a vulture. By mid-morning, the heat of the day starts to settle in. The routine shifts from preparation to maintenance. You eat, but you don't eat like a peasant. Your diet is strictly controlled. Lots of honey, fresh figs, pomegranate, and lean fish. No garlic, no onions. You cannot afford to have bad breath when your face is inches away from a high priest. This is where the psychological toll starts to show. You're surrounded by the most beautiful women in the empire, and every single one of them is your competitor. The girl sitting next to you, the one you shared a laugh with over the natron basin, is the same girl who will try to steal your place at the banquet tonight. The hierarchy is everything. There are the Neferut, the beautiful ones who are the stars of the show, and then there are the Hemet, the workers who handle the logistics. Your entire 4 a.m. routine is designed to keep you in that first category. If you fail, you don't just lose your job, you lose your safety. You go from the perfumed halls of the palace to the dusty streets of the city, and in ancient Egypt, that transition is often permanent. Let's talk about the hair, or rather the lack of. To be truly elite, you have to be perfectly hairless. This means every morning involves a painful session with bronze razors and sugar-based waxes. It's a constant battle against nature. Then comes the wig, a massive, heavy construction of human hair and sheep's wool, saturated with scented beeswax. Imagine wearing a 3-pound weight on your head in 100-degree heat. You have to move with grace, your neck perfectly straight, never letting the weight tip you over. It's a masterclass in poise. If your wig slips during a dance, it's a sign of weakness, and weakness is the one thing the House of the Jollity does not tolerate. As the day progresses towards the evening banquet, the tension reaches a pitch fever. This is what you woke up at 4 a.m. for. The final touch is the scent, not just a spray of perfume, but a cone of scented fat placed on top of your wig. As the night goes on, the heat of your body and the room melts the wax, sending streaks of perfumed lily and myrrh down your face and shoulders. It sounds messy, and it was, but to the Egyptians, this was the height of sensuality. It was the smell of divinity. But here is the secret that most history books leave out. This routine wasn't just about the pharaoh's pleasure, it was a career. A woman who mastered this 4 a.m. grind could amass her own wealth. She could own land, she could marry into the nobility, and she could exert influence that even some generals couldn't touch. The routine was the cage, but it was also the key. When you look at the minimalist animations of these women, don't just see the gold and the linen. See the girl who woke up in the dark, who endured the sting of the salt and the poison of the paint, all for a chance to control her own destiny in a world that wanted to own her. It was a life of extreme discipline disguised as a life of extreme decadence, and that is the ultimate irony of the Egyptian harem. As the sun finally sets and the torches are lit for the night's festivities, the 4 a.m. routine is over, but the performance is just beginning. You walk into the great hall, the smell of myrrh trailing behind you, your eyes sparkling with the dangerous glint of galena, and you realize that you aren't just a slave, you are a masterpiece. The music begins, the sistrum shakes, and for a few hours, you are the center of the universe. But even as you smile and dance, a part of your mind is already thinking about tomorrow. You're thinking about the natron basin, the cold stone, and the weight of the wig. Because in this world, perfection is not a destination,